Welcome back, cannonball chasers and history lovers, history heroes too. You're listening to the Adventure Box podcast. This is a podcast that rips through times with bayonet level precision and enough attitude to fill a Union supply wagon. That's right. I'm your host, Zach Edwards, and today is going to be a great day. Today we dive into a brawl that's smoky, muddy, and totally unforgettable in the final years of the Civil War. So on our docket, today we got two things. One, the unstoppable meat grinder that is Grant, that's Ulysses S. Grant, versus Mr. General, I guess would be better, General Robert E. Lee. And this is the Overland Campaign. And the second thing we're going to be talking about is the most epic and controversial road trip in American history. This is Sherman's March to the Sea. So two different campaigns, one in Virginia, one down in Georgia. And the reason why these are so important is because they were game changers. So strap on your sabers, grab your hardtack, and maybe don't get too attached to Atlanta, because we're heading into a storm in 1864. Now, we're also going to be talking about another thing with 1864 on Wednesday, but that is separate from this. We're going to talk about these wars, then we're going to talk about what is the election of, is it 1864 or was it 1863? I think it was 1863. Well, actually, no, it was 1864. So I'm looking up my notes in here. So the election of 1864. So, two things. Today we're going to be talking about the battles. On Wednesday we're going to be talking about the election of 1864. And we'll throw in a little bit of course, you like battles, you like wars, you like to know what's happening. So we're going to actually bring in some actual wars as well. We're going to talk about the naval wars on that same podcast. That will be Wednesday. So election and the naval wars, just to give you a little bit of action in that, because you might not be that interested in the election, but it's very important. And in addition to that, we're going to get something that's really exciting, such as the naval wars during that time. So let's start off with Mr. Ulysses S. Grant. Who was he? Union General, number one, top of the food chain, great general. Then who was he against? He was against General Robert E. Lee, also top general, but for the Confederates. Now, interesting enough, Lee was not a big slave person. He didn't quite care, I think, about slavery. It wasn't his issue. He had loyalty to the southern states. He was from there, and so he gave his loyalty to that. So let's talk about 1864. So early 1864, this war was older than Lincoln's beard and just as tangled. Lincoln brings Ulysses S. Grant as commander of all the Union armies. Now, because Grant has one specific skill that Lincoln's looking for, and that is winning. That's what he thinks is the most important thing at this point, because he needs this win. If they're going to keep slavery outlawed, if they're going to be able to keep the Emancipation Proclamation, which Lincoln promised that would free all slaves inside the United States, he had to win this war. If he wanted to keep a nation together, he had to win this war. So Ulysses S. Grant, his specific skill, was winning. And that's what Lincoln needed. So this was Grant's philosophy. He said basically, unlike his predecessors who danced around Robert E. Lee, remember what we were talking about? They were very cautious. They were very scared of doing too many things or being too out front. Grant came in with the subtlety. He basically came in as a freight train. He was ready to hit hard. And basically what he said is, I'm not here to maneuver. I'm here to fight every day until it's over. And Lee, still sharp, still defensive, still trying to keep Virginia from becoming one large Union campground, he was ready for that fight. So, picture this. It's May 1864. A nice spring, semi-cool day. Humidity's starting to come in. It's getting a little bit hotter. Not too bad. Grant launches what he calls the Overland Campaign. Now, starts off, let's say May 5th to May 7th was the Wilderness. Let me give you a picture of this. I got a map right here, perfect for you. There you go. So here's Virginia. If I zoom up anymore, it's going to give me roads. I don't want roads, but that's all we got. So at this point, it starts down here. And it comes up to Fredericksburg. Oh, no, sorry. It starts in Fredericksburg and goes down into Petersburg. This is Petersburg down here. So they start up here. As you can see, it's very close to Washington, D.C. And so there's a lot of apprehension that if the South can get any more strength and confidence, remember last week we talked about how they had just shot down their confidence by 2 major wars. Go back and watch that one. It'll tell you about those 2 major wars. Because of that, the confidence of the Unions spiked. It was top of the game. They were all ready to go. The Confederacy, though, was scared at this point. They were the ones falling back. They were the ones having the issues. So Grant decides, I'm coming in as a freight train, and he's going to take them on. So he goes on his march. Now, think of this. Virginia, very dense forests. Basically a mosquito infestation over over an oven of smoke and confusion. You can't see anything at this time. You had bullets flying. You had trees are catching fire. Men are shouting at bushes and yelling, "Is that you, Charlie?" They had no idea what was going on. There's so much smoke because, as you know, from the guns back then, they were black powder rifles. So that black powder, when it ignites, sets off smoke. You had smoke everywhere. And you had a very dense forest. And you had any of the shrubs underneath. So you have very little line of sight. And they're rushing through these. It wasn't a battlefield like it normally was. So in this time, the outcome was basically no clear winner. 17,000 Union and 11,000 Confederate casualties. Those aren't all dead. Those are people that were wounded. They were killed. They were anything that basically held them up from fighting again. And actually, some of those wounded still fought in the next battle. But here's the twist. Grant doesn't retreat. He keeps going. He doesn't care that he didn't exactly win this battle. The next thing he does is he goes to the Spotsylvania courthouse. So let's bring this in. Okay, so I put in these directions. It's about, in a drive, it's about 2.5 hours to drive. Walking distance, it's like 2 days, I think. Now here's the thing. If I come in here, I'm going to put in another destination. I want to show you this. Let's move this one down a little bit. And we'll go to Spotsylvania. Spotsylvania, Virginia. Yep, there it is. Spotsylvania. There you go. Spotsylvania Courthouse in Virginia. Okay, so here we go. They went that far for the next day. So this is now May 8th through the 21st. It takes them this long to get past this. This is going to be a very bloody one. Remember, the Wilderness was only 2 days. Basically 2 days. 3 days, but about 48 hours. This one is going to be from May 8th till the 21st. Could you imagine being on a battlefield, the same battlefield, moving up, moving back, just trying to get a foothold and win, and it takes you nearly, about 13 days to do, 13 to 14 days. Still in Virginia, still violent, still miserable. The guys are miserable. They're in the middle of nowhere. They have no idea where they're really at. So one key moment. It's called the Bloody Angle. It's a 20-hour hand-to-hand brawl in the mud, in the rain, and covered in bayonets. I mean, these guys were just stabbing everyone they could in the mud, rummaging around. There was some wrestling in there. There was all these different things. Thousands died. It was not... I made a little bit of light to it, but it was not a happy time. Nobody moves much during this whole time, about 13 to 14 days. But the message is clear. Grant is going to bleed Lee dry. He's going to take out as many of the Confederates as possible. He has slightly about 6,000 to 7,000 more Union soldiers than he has Oh, no, actually, you know what? That was the casualties. Actually, I'm not even 100% sure. Let me find out. So, in the battle, let's see, in the, what do we call it? It was the campaign, Overland Campaign, that's right. Overland Campaign, how many soldiers were on each side? I'm going to do my handy dandy Google. Let's try to find out. So, in this, we have, waiting for it, they said the Overland Campaign was a massive number of troops. We had Ulysses S. Grant, who had 118,000 to 125,000 troops. On the other hand, Lee had only 60,000 to 65,000 troops. This is like a 1-to-2 ratio, or 2-to-1, I guess I should say. Grant had 2 soldiers for every 1 soldier that Lee had. So bleeding him dry is basically a fairly good tactic, except you're going to lose a lot of men doing it. So then it moves on. This is June 1st to the 3rd, and this is Cold Harbor. I'm going to add another location to our little map. Let's bring this up. Cold Harbor. Enter that in there. Cold Harbor, Virginia. So they traveled from that point. Oh, look at that. They didn't go in a straight line. They came down. And they went to Cold Harbor, Virginia, down here. Okay, so now Grant makes one major mistake at this point. On June 3rd, he orders a massive frontal assault against Lee and his position. Now, Lee's position is very fortified. So the result, about 7,000 Union soldiers fall in just 1 hour. That's right. He threw men at it, and he lost about 7,000 men. So Grant, not too good at this point. Later says that is one of the orders he most regretted. And now you see why. So, what was the point of all this? The Overland Campaign wasn't about winning battles. Interesting, right? So you're in a war and you're not trying to win battles. No. It was about wearing down Lee. Grant wanted to take down Lee in the best way possible because he knows he can't get much ground here. Grant knew that the North had more men. They had more supplies. They had more coffee. Yeah, because the guys need a little bit of energy. Wake me up. Because I'm guessing. I just went on a camp with a whole bunch of young men. And it was not a restful night every night. And I had a cot. Most of the boys had cots. And just being able to sleep in those tents, on the ground, on a cot, not too comfortable. But when you're exhausted from these kind of battles, I mean, you go out like that. But as soon as your body gets enough energy to start waking up, it starts waking up, and your back's gonna hurt, your arms gonna hurt, your head's gonna hurt, everything's gonna hurt. So Lee knew that he had to rush in there, push Lee as hard as possible, take out as many people as possible. Now, so even if every battle looked like a draw or a loss, Grant was moving forward, pinning Lee and grinding down the Confederate strength in Virginia. It was pretty... No, sorry. It wasn't pretty. I was going to say it was pretty something, but it wasn't pretty. It wasn't elegant, but Grant, basically his strategy was working. And Lee, he was running out of cards to play. Now, let's flip the map. Let's go down farther south, okay? This is Sherman's march to the sea. So Sherman's march, this is basically a task. Sherman, his name was William Tecumseh, which was actually a Native American name. Remember that. It was actually someone that his father quite admired. William Tecumseh, and you can go back and read or watch about him, or read in our text, Tecumseh. Remember that name. Sherman. He was known as the Hammer. And in late 1864, he decided to cut the South in half. Again, but this time with fire, tearing up railroads, and pure psychological warfare. So let's set the stage. Okay, we're going to start off in Atlanta. So we're going to cancel all this. Yep, let's go down to Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia. Great place. Very humid, very hot during the summer. And right now, it's basically that. Now, this is September, so it's getting out of that hot stage. And as he marches, it's going to get more and more comfortable when it comes to the weather. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so this is Atlanta. This is Georgia. Let's see. Let's go back further out. There we go. Georgia, right here. You can probably see that line going around. That's Georgia. They're starting in Atlanta, and they have to march to the sea. That's the purpose. And during this, they're going to do what's called total war. And it was unleashed on the South. Okay, so Sherman captures Atlanta. It's in September 1864, giving Lincoln a momentum to win the re-election. Oh, wait a second. I wasn't supposed to say that. That's for 2 days from now, Wednesday. Then he says, you know what? Let's march to the sea. Okay, so marching to the sea. They're going to go from Atlanta. Let's get the directions here. Let's put that one up here, further up. And we're going to Savannah, Georgia. That is altogether about 248 miles. That's like a week's walk. About. So, at this time, let's do walk. Here it says 4 days. That's pretty fast for 4 days. Let's see, 4 days, 240,000 or 240 miles. Okay, 245, but 240 miles divided by 4 days. That's 60 miles a day. Do you think you're gonna march that? I don't think so. You're not marching that 60 days. So I don't know what this. Oh, wait a second. Now it says 80. Okay, 84 hours. Oh, gotcha. So going straight take you about 84 hours, 4 solid days of just walking. But you won't be doing that. It's going to take you at least 2 weeks. That's about 14 days. That gives you about 10 to 12 miles per day. Maybe say even 10 to 14, depending on the terrain. Because if you know Georgia, you're going to know it's lots of trees, lots of brush. There's not places where you're going to go just walk down a road. You're going to be walking down all different terrains. So from Atlanta to Savannah, he had 60,000 troops. He had no supply line. And basically he said, there's no looking back. They had to forage. They had to burn. They had to march. That was their orders. So wait. He burned everything? Not everything, but a lot. Sherman's strategy was called total war. This is basically where you say, make the South feel the hard hand of war. So not just the soldiers, everybody's going to feel it. So he destroyed railroads. He actually twisted railroad ties. And some say they did the Sherman necktie. It means they took a tie, big wrought iron. They twisted it almost like a necktie, basically one side of it. They basically just put a loop in it so no one could undo it and use it again for railroads. They destroyed bridges. They destroyed telegraph lines. That's right. There's no telephones. You're going. That's a telegraph. You're sending messages by Morse code. So, if he destroys the poles, that means no wires. If there's no wires, that means no communications from point A to point B. So bridges and telegraph, that cuts off all of your communications. You're going to go back to primitive times before there's bridges. You're going to have to float a boat across the river in order to get a message somewhere else. But it's amazing some of the things that he actually has. He has things like pontoon bridges. That's right. At the time, they actually had pontoon bridges, and they were able to transfer people across. When there wasn't a bridge, they put the pontoons down, and they could walk across. And then they pull those up, and no one could follow. So he didn't. Oh, and one more thing. He also destroyed every warehouse and farm that supplied the Confederate Army. That's right. He would go into a personal farm, burn it. Why did he do that? Was it to be mean? No, it wasn't to be mean. Psychological warfare. He's making it so hard for the Confederate citizens, remember, Confederate States of America, their citizens, if they did not like it anymore, the war would end. He didn't massacre civilians, but he wrecked their morale. His troops took what they needed from the farms, they scared the countryside, and they crushed the idea that the Confederacy could protect itself. So, seems a little cruel, but almost necessary. It's like some people these days are actually, they're arguing about, was the atomic bomb needed? You know, there's plenty of studies out. I think there's 2 studies that I know of that basically say if they did not drop the atomic bomb and wipe out all the citizens in those 2 cities, they would have lost millions of people between the United States and the Japanese. The Japanese would have lost hundreds of thousands of people if the US had actually invaded Japan. So, was it cruel to do it? No, I think they saw it as necessary. Just like Sherman, he's going to go through and he's going to break the back of the South and break their morale as fast as possible because he wants to end the war and end the killing. So Sherman's march wasn't just about military, it was about mind games. He wanted the Southerners to think, if they can just waltz through Georgia, what's the point of continuing this war? So, you'd be cruel, not to the citizens. You don't kill the citizens, you don't massacre them. You burn the houses, you burn some of the warehouses, and try to show them that this war is not needed. You need to stop. So, when some people might think something's cruel that's being done in some way, there actually might be another reason for doing it, which is actually saving lives as well. So, it's not always black and white. Sometimes there is some gray there. So on December 21st, 1864, Sherman captures Savannah. He walks through. He makes it there. And he offers it to Lincoln as a Christmas gift. December 21st, 1864, 4 days before Christmas. That's right. Lincoln gets a city for Christmas. Man, the best thing I get is a tie. Actually, no, that's not true. I get these shirts. I got to show you these shirts. I got one that says, don't make me repeat myself. Signed, History. So, these really quirky little shirts. But he got a city. I got a shirt. So, I like my shirts, though. So, it's all good. Meanwhile, Sherman's next target was the Carolinas. It's like Sherman playing civilization on total domination mode. So Civilization, if you don't know, it's a video game. It actually started back when I was a kid. Civilization 1 by oh, shoot. Crud. You probably know it, but Civilization. Now it's up to like Civilization 7. But think of playing Civilization on total domination mode and just kept clicking, raise the city, raise this. You know what that means? Raise the city, burn it down. It's funny because you say raise the city, but it's actually like raise the flames in the city, burn it down. That's what it means. And so that's what Sherman did. He did everything he could to break the morale of the South. Because if the South morale was down, they would stop winning battles. They stopped winning the battles, but they'd also say, give up, we're done, we don't want any more war. And that's what he wanted. He wanted them to say, we're done, no more war. Whatever you need, we're coming back to the Union. So, 1864, we've given you one side of this. Next time, on Wednesday, we'll talk about the election, and we'll throw in some naval warfare as well, just for excitement. But this time, what did we talk about? We talked about Grant's Overland Campaign. It was a chess match. He came in with up to 125,000 soldiers and just moved down the line. And a lot of soldiers died, but he knew he had to break Lee, General Robert E. Lee. He didn't care about flashy wins, just relentless pressure on Lee. He basically played grenades. Just lob the grenades, just keep going as long as you can move forward. So Lee fought bravely, but the South was bleeding. It was starving. It was exhausted. That brings in Sherman. Now Sherman says, okay, I see what's happening in the North. I'm going to do that down south. I'm going to march to the sea from Atlanta, which he just took over. It wasn't just about military maneuvering. It was about psychological warfare and doing it on a grand scale. I mean, no one could say, hey, I think we could still win this. after Lee had just lost, flat out, and Sherman was destroying Atlanta. Oh, there is one story I missed, I did not tell you about, and this is a sad part. This is the sad part of the march, and this is the very controversial part of Sherman's march. Now, let me set the stage. You've got Sherman going through and destroying these farms, destroying these warehouses, things like that. Well, who's at those farms when the Confederate citizens run? The slaves are there. Now, the slaves are not running. They actually like the Union. Remember, they're supposed to have the Emancipation Proclamation, be free. Except the Confederates didn't see that, didn't agree with that. They didn't use that in their country, in their portion of the United States. So, when the African American slaves say, hey, the Union are here, I'm sitting still. I'm not leaving with you, lady. Or actually, yeah, most likely it was lady, because remember, it was only the women that were staying home. All the men were trying to fight. Some men stayed, but mostly it was women that were there on the farms. So, the African Americans, the slaves, they were like, we're not leaving. We're staying right here. And it's like, fine, be killed. And they run off, the Confederates, the white citizens. So this is the point. When the Unions come down, what happens? All those slaves are now free. And they're like, the only way we're going to stay free is if we march with the army and stay with them. Because if our masters come back and try to re-enslave us, we're in trouble. And we're going to be slaves again. But if we go with the army, we'll be safe. So, mixed in there, they're marching basically around the army. Not in front of them, but like at the sides and the back. They come to a river. The pontoon bridge comes out. They place it down, and they start marching over it. Most of these soldiers, some of the freedmen, not slaves anymore. So they're marching over. They're having a great time, and all of a sudden they see in the background, here come the Confederates! Well, the Confederates are coming. You know that every soldier is going to try to get over that bridge as fast as possible. But then what happens? What happens is the sad part. But you have to understand, like we talked about, it's not black and white. There is some gray area. At some point, when all the soldiers, all the Union soldiers came over the bridge, they had to pull up the pontoon bridge. They had to destroy the bridge, which left thousands, or hundreds at least, of African American freedmen. At the time, they weren't considered African American, they were just called freedmen. The freedmen were recaptured by the Confederates. Now, some did not want to go back. They jumped into the river and tried to swim across, and many drowned. Children, adults drowned because they did not want to go back to the farms and be beaten, especially because they were marching with the Union soldiers. So this is one of the saddest part. Those that actually made it, they made a promise. They said 40 acres and a donkey. 40 and a donkey. That was their promise. So right after the Confederacy, or after the Confederacy fell, after the Civil War, the soldiers that were down there, they said, hey, we promised you this. They took the farms away from the white farmers, and they gave it to the freedmen that had actually made it to Savannah with the army. And they gave that out. Well, at one point, Lincoln dies. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead, but his vice president says, you know what? No, we need to make sure that everyone can be satisfied in this, because we're rejoining the Union. And he gives back all the farms back to the white farmers, and all the black farmers, all the freedmen, were given what they called sharecropping land, which means you had to share the land and crop together, which wasn't a good thing. Well, it was okay. It wasn't a horrible thing, but it wasn't what they were promised. So, that's it. Okay, so we told you about this whole thing, talked about the different marches that were needed, told you about the sad parts that come with the marches, whether it was the Confederates that were being hurt or the freedmen after they were freed from being slaves. So, thanks for marching, thanks for burning, thanks for digging in and ducking cannonballs. With me today on the Adventure Box podcast, I am Zach Edwards, your muddy-booted historian and amateur fire marshal, reminding you that victories in war doesn't always come with glory. sometimes it comes with grit and, in war, many deaths. But you keep moving forward. So next time, just wait. This is a really exciting time. We're going to be talking about the election. Now, if that seems boring to you, hold on. We're going to be talking about the naval warfare at the end. So stay tuned until next time. That's Wednesday. So come back. Thank you so much. Have a great day. We will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. If you have any comments or questions, add them to the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow, actually. Take care. Bye.